Recording in progress.
All right, I'd like to call the April 11th meeting of the West Sacramento Environment and Utilities Commission to order. Tonight's agenda, related agenda reports are available on the city's website at cityofwestsacramento.org. This meeting will be conducted via teleconference pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E, as in elephant. The City Council adopted Resolution 22-33 on March 2nd, 2022, confirming that a statewide state of emergency continues to exist in the COVID-19 virus pandemic, and that the Yolo County Public Health Officer continues to recommend measures to promote social distancing. Members of the public are asked to watch the meeting live stream on the city's website or via Wave Cable Channel 20. Any public comment sent to the clerk by email prior to 5 p.m. today would have been provided to the commission and posted to the city's website. Public comment, there will be opportunities for additional public comment tonight during our meeting, and comment can only be made on matters within the jurisdiction of the commission. And for anything that is not on the agenda, the commission cannot take action or deliberate on those items. With that, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Good evening, and I apologize if I do pronounce anyone's last name wrong, as I'm a little bit unfamiliar, but here we go. Commissioner Green. Commissioner Choi.
Here.
Commissioner Blondo. Commissioner Solorio.
Present.
Commissioner Petrie. Commissioner Silano.
Present.
Commissioner Cordano. And Commissioner Criswell.
Present.
I think that's everybody. Thank you.
Okay, so there are 4 commissioners present, so that means we do have a quorum and can continue with our meeting. Moving into the agenda, the first item in the General Administration Function Part 1, item A is the election of Environment and Utilities Commission Chair and Vice Chair for 2022. I don't know if the other commissioners have any thoughts, but since there are only 4 of us here this evening, my recommendation would be that we postpone this item to a future meeting, but certainly happy to entertain any discussion from the other commissioners on that.
I move that we postpone it.
I would just ask that to hear from the staff if there are any negative implications of postponing it. What deadlines are they working with that we might need to be aware of?
We are asked by the city clerk's office to, create a chair and vice chair at the first meeting of every year for each commission. But in certain circumstances, such as this one, it would be appropriate to move to the next meeting if the commission wishes.
Makes sense. And I think I actually was a bit confused thinking it was the presentation. So that's what that comment was. I thought we were seeking to move the actual presentation. So stand corrected. Got it. I second the motion to postpone the first item.
Great. Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, hearing none, I believe we need to take a roll call vote on the motion to postpone the election of Environment and Utilities Commission Chair and Vice Chair for 2022 until our next meeting.
Commissioner Choi?
Yes.
Commissioner Criswell?
Aye.
Commissioner Solorio?
Approve.
Commissioner Silano?
It's Cholino.
Cholino,
Aye.
thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, motion passed.
Okay, thank you. The next item is B. This is presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda that are within the jurisdiction of the commission. Again, commission members are prohibited from discussing issues not on the agenda brought to us at this time. Is there anyone from the public that would like to offer public comment now? Okay, seeing no one looking to be recognized, we will move to the next item on the agenda. Disclosure of ex parte communications. So commissioners, you should disclose any communications you've had on the agenda items with folks prior to the meeting at this time. Any ex parte communications that you'd like to disclose?
None.
Okay. Hearing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is to consider approval of the minutes of the December 13th, 2021 special meeting of the Environment and Utilities Commission. Were there any questions or comments on the minutes from the December 2021 meeting?
None.
Okay. Would anyone like to move approval of the minutes?
I'll move approval of the minutes from the December 13th commission meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Solorio.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Criswell. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll on those?
Yes. Commissioner Solorio,
Approved.
Commissioner Choi,
Yes.
Commissioner Criswell,
Aye.
Commissioner Chelino.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and then moving into the regular agenda, I believe we'll turn it over to, well, first I'd like to say hi and welcome Tracy with the city. And Tracy, I don't know if you want to say anything before we move into the regular agenda, which is to consider switching compliance method for the statewide trash provisions to be implemented through the small municipal separate storm sewer system, MS4 permit.
I just wanted to say hello, and this is my first commission meeting, so it's great to be with all of you here in West Sacramento. I think most of you, I may have had a conversation with a few of you offline, but I come from approximately 10 years of experience working at the city of Elk Grove in their recycling and waste division. I recently received my master's degree in public administration through Arkansas State University in June of last year. And I am super stoked about being here with all of you and the citizens of West Sacramento. It really is big shoes to fill, filling in for Paulina. When I was in Elk Grove, she was a staple. Everyone knew who Paulina was. She had it together, and it really is, it can be a little overwhelming to try to fill her shoes. But I'm up for the challenge, and everybody has been so wonderful so far. And I look forward to working with all of you here and in the future.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see you again, Tracy.
Welcome, and we look forward to getting to work with you.
Thank you.
And Tracy, do you want to introduce the speaker for the next topic?
Absolutely. This is Faison. Faison is an analyst in our division, and he specializes in stormwater. And he is definitely our subject matter expert with regards to the agenda item before you. So I am pleased to introduce him and have him take over.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'd like to build on Tracy's comments. We're very happy to have her. Paulina, I think, did a excellent job in recruiting. So I would like to share my screen, if that's okay. And can everyone hear me and see my screen?
I can
don't see your
you,
screen.
Faison. Yeah, we don't see your presentation.
Oh. One second. How about now?
Yeah.
There we go. We're good.
All right, great. Okay. So as Tracy mentioned, my name is Faison. I'm with the city of West Sacramento. I've been with the city since 2018. So I'm coming up about 4 years now. And today we'll be talking about the consideration of switching compliance methods for the statewide trash provisions. All right, so it is recommended that we are asking for the commission's support. The staff's recommendation to City Council that the city switch from Track 1 compliance method to Track 2 compliance method. And I'll dive in a bit what the differences are between Track 1 and Track 2. Just some background. So trash provisions were adopted statewide and for the city on April 7th, 2015 through our MS4 permit. That stands for Small Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. It's a mouthful, so we in stormwater world, we love our acronyms. So if there's any acronyms you're unsure of, please let me know. The trash provisions establish statewide water quality objective for trash, prohibition of trash discharge to surface waters, and defines priority land use areas where trash controls are required. Some examples of priority land use areas, or PLUs, are high density residential, industrial, commercial, mixed urban, and public transportation stations. On June 1st, 2017, the State Water Control Board, also known as the Water Board, used its authority to require all MS4 permittees, including the city, to begin development of a trash control program. So this order required the city to select one of two compliance options, Track 1 or Track 2. So back in 2017, the city had initially gone to Environmental Utilities Commission with the decision to switch to Track 1. So Track 1 is to install, operate, and maintain full capture systems. Those are outfall devices or inlet-based devices for all storm drains that capture runoff for public land use areas in our jurisdiction. Track 2 would be you would combine some full capture systems, but also have some multi-benefit projects or other controls that are structural or non-structural. So there are some few examples. For non-structural control measures, you can have drain inlet cleaning from our Public Works Department, community programs such as litter pickup events. We have landscape maintenance requirements for our Parks Division and street sweeping. And other control methods could be programs or policies, and they are just designed to reduce and control trash throughout the city. Those can be our municipal ordinance is a good example. In August 2017, we'd actually requested to choose Track 1, and that is the method we were originally pursuing. But there were a few considerations that have popped up since. that we've decided to pursue a track 2 approach. So with track 1, it's pretty straightforward. You just would have to install large or even small full capture systems, also known as just stormwater devices. These can be placed at the DI or at our outfall, where a lot of our water flows through. These can be very large devices or just very small by inlet basis. So there are a few examples. One, there's a hydrodynamic separator. There's a large baffle box, which is it's all meant to just filter and separate. There are netting devices that can capture trash. The goal is that we have to capture trash down to 5 millimeters in size. The most common one is number 4, which is the connector pipe screen. You'll see those installed underground in our system. They're the easiest to install and the easiest to maintain. We also have baskets and screens, which just act as filters. So choosing and implementing track 1 would be almost certain compliance with this trash provision. However, it is a much larger cost, and there's some other benefits to track 2 that we'll cover. So how do we determine a track 2 compliance method? Well, there are 3 main reasons. We've considered what the city is already doing to control trash. Paulina and I, we conducted site inspections of our street, surveys of our street, and we also did a cost analysis. Larry Walker Associates, they are a consulting firm, and they've helped us with our stormwater permit compliance since when I've started, but before then, probably 2017, 2016. So they were a huge help in switching to track 1 and providing all the different costs. But now they've also helped us with switching to track 2. Track 2 is more of a flexible program, so we'll see later on as we go. So what are the programs that the city already implements? There are many that are probably not listed on this slide, but some of the key ones are street sweeping, the storm drain system maintenance. So our city has over 4,000 storm drains, 130 miles of storm mains, and as well as 8 water pumping facilities. And we also maintain a little over 48,000 linear feet of storm drain channels. So it's a huge effort on the city's part. The cities offer cleanup programs. So we have voluntary cleanup programs, and we have a very well-known downtown street team. The city, we love our team. They do a lot of litter abatement on our street. We're actually in the 3rd year of contracting with downtown street. We also conduct outreach and education, a lot through our own division, some through public works. Some examples could be, pick up your dog waste, and we'll use Facebook, Twitter, our own hard copy newsletters to get the message across to our folks. We also offer trash and recycling services through waste management, and we have bulky waste pickup. We have hazardous waste pickups. Residents can sign up and get 2 per fiscal year of each. And we also have some of our municipal code already in place that makes it unlawful for public nuisance, waste disposal prohibitions, and refuse and recycling areas. The last one is more folks who have built the trash enclosure are required to maintain it and keep it tidy. So we've used this code in the past to ensure that trash is not blowing off private properties or into the street. The second consideration was the surveys that we did on our streets. We call them on-land visual trash assessment, also known as OVTAs. They help determine our baseline trash generation. So before we can even consider switching to track 2, we need an idea of how much trash is being generated in our street. So we are required to survey our streets, our PLUs, and most of them are done by walking. So in areas that we couldn't walk with high traffic or no sidewalks, we would do driving surveys. And the surveys considered, we would walk down the street and one person would count each cigarette butt that they found, and we tally that together, and then we did a grade of A, B, C, and D. We break out the street in segments. So if a portion is A, that means there's virtually no trash. We do want to, ideally, all of our streets should be A. That means we've met full trash capture equivalency. B stands for moderate, C is high, and D is very high. During our surveys, we did notice our most commonly littered item was cigarette butt litter. And it's one of the main reasons why a lot of our streets ended up, some of our streets ended up in the C or D range. So here are the results of our trash assessment. The map on the left you'll see is different priority land use areas. So the light shade of brown is high density residential. We have brown is industrial, blue commercial, and green mixed use. We've also noted different bus stops in our city, and they've been mapped as well. Larry Walker Associates, they've helped us compile all our data, and they made it into a very nice visual summary here on the right. So if you notice this map, A is green, we're good. B, yellow. C, orange. I did not have the orange highlighter. And purple, which is D. So as you can notice, just at a first glance of our map, we're really in a lot of A and B areas already. So we did 2 different assessments. We did one in the dry season and in the wet season. We had to time it out to where we're enough days out where we're avoiding our street sweeper. And we also tried to conduct these surveys soon after a waste management service pickup. So, you know, sometimes trash can fly out of cart. So if that was a problem, we wanted to note it on our inspection sheet. You'll see a lot of areas that weren't surveyed or undeveloped, or not one of the PLUs that are required to mitigate trash. But you'll see some commonalities. This large portion here, if you recognize it, this is actually near our post office, so it's in our industrial areas. But if you notice, we only have 3 sections that we marked as deep on average between our wet season and our dry season. And mentioned earlier, a lot of our litter is, let's say, with cigarette butt litter. So there are streets that could have been an A, maybe a B, but because we've counted 400 plus cigarette butts within a segment, we had to lower that grade down to a D. So if we were to target these trash areas with just a track 1 approach, we would install devices on all these locations. if you can see here on this map, there's a little symbol that marks all the storm drain inlets. The simplest solution would be to install a pipe screen at all the DIs. And we have, I believe, over 1,600. So it's going to get pretty expensive pretty quick. So
Drain inlet.
correct. Yes, drain inlet. Thank you. So we've done a cost analysis. LWA Larry Walker Associates also assisted us on this cost analysis. They did put together some figures back in 2017. Those have for track 1 only, and those have been updated to 2022 figures. And as I'm sure as you saw in the report, you're seeing now, those costs, depending on if we do a cost calculation of per capita per device, can range from 492,000 to 930,000 for just installing the device. And then that would add an additional 200 to 232,000 for annual maintenance from our public works. Track 2, right now we're about $852,000 to implement per year, and that includes already $753,000. So if we were to choose a track 1 approach, we would take this figure and add on these additional costs. So just the biggest reasoning for staff is cost. Track 2 costs can vary. It will depend what sort of programs we decide to enhance, what programs we choose to implement. A clear example can be track 2, since we've noticed that cigarette butt litter is very common. We can do a cigarette butt campaign. So that would be, we've already reached out to Keep America Beautiful. They're a organization that helps disperse all sorts of cigarette butt canisters, and we've actually secured some to hopefully install. Yes, I see a raised hand. Go.
That was a part that confused me a little bit in the second part in track 2. When you say an existing trash reduction program implementation cost, can you help me understand?
Sure.
Is that 753,000 is something new, or can you explain that a little more? Because I found it confusing in the reading materials and also on the slide.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So the $753,000 is money that we are already spending right now, and that is to do our storm drain maintenance and to do some illegal dumping pickup and street sweeping. So this cost figure was provided by Public Works, and they just tallied their complete man hours, all their costs. So this is their annual cost to just implement what we're doing right now.
And so that helps. So we were saying that the annual cost, it goes essentially up from 753 to 852.
Correct.
To go on to track 2.
Exactly. I can see. Let me see if I can get a breakdown. It was in the report. Are you able to see this table?
Yes.
Let me try to zoom in. So you'll notice we have some existing programs. So street sweeping, that's our annual cost. Storm drain cleaning, it's this amount. Some volunteer litter pickup support, and also our downtown streets program. That's the cost per year. So far, we don't have figures for additional cleanup programs, from other O&M costs, but we do have what adds on to this, the 700,000 figure, is the monitoring and reporting. So that's the most that we can do. So we'll have to do annual surveys of our streets, the OVTAs, and there's some staff time that'll cost that'll be associated with it. This figure here, so this is projected through 2029, so we have to be compliant by 2030. So this would be the total cost by 2030. And we're seeing about an additional cost of $99,000 at least. So it really depends on what sort of program enhancements we decide to make, what sort of litter abatement campaigns we want to take on. If we decide to increase street sweeping, that might add additional costs. But one thing that I want to mention about the this track 1 cost figure, this was actually calculated with the pipe screen. So that's one of the cheapest and easiest to maintain. So that one has an average cost about $800 per device. The more expensive ones, if we needed a more sophisticated device, or if we chose to install one of the larger devices at one of our outfalls, those devices can range from anywhere between $300 to $3,200. So the cost with track 1 can vary greatly. There are so many more complicated, more sophisticated devices out there. So this cost was for track 1 was for the most simplest device to be installed at over 1,100 drain inlet in our PLU.
Does that answer your questions, Commissioner Criswell?
It does.
Okay. And then Commissioner Choi, I saw your hand up, but it's not up anymore. But I wanted to make sure if you had a question, you had a chance to get it in now. There'll be time at the end as well.
No, the answers cleared up my question. I guess since I'm on, my suggestion then, because track 2, the way it's written on the slide, does make it seem like track 2 is way more expensive than track 1, the way it's written. So it looks like track 1 is $210,000 to $232,000 a year annually, but then track 2, it looks like it's $852,000 a year annually, but that's not the case. It's just the incremental cost that we're looking at for track 2.
Right. So we can LWA did try to provide the most simplest and easiest way to share the track 1 cost numbers and our track 2 cost numbers.
Yeah.
I agree. This 492 figure is per capita, and then it can range to per device as 930,000. There are 2 different methods to calculate cost. I think I'm overcomplicating it.
Yeah,
but,
it's okay. So my follow-up question, that I get it now. My follow-up question is, I kind of like the idea of the traps and stuff like that in track 1. Are we able to do like a combination of track 1 and track 2? Is that within our budget? Could we add more, filters where there's more cigarette butts and stuff like that, or is that already part of track 2?
Yeah, that's a great question. So track 2 will actually require us to still continue to pursue installing full capture system devices. So we wouldn't entirely rely on just programmatic changes and implementing different programs, but we would also have to install some of these devices, just far fewer than what's required with track 1.
Those would be in the areas that obviously need them the most, right?
That's correct. I'll give you the clearest example during my surveys was around the post office. So in that area, there is there are no parking restrictions. Some of the street folks can park their big rigs, they can park employees or private contractors are parking on that street. And we find that our street sweeper can't get to the curb because there are no parking restrictions in place for our street sweeper. So we would either install some devices in those locations or implement parking restrictions. I think parking restrictions would probably be a much more difficult task, and probably installing the device at this location would be the easiest solution.
Yeah, as well as those cigarette butt captures and all the other combination of education for that district, for the people who are leaving that.
Exactly. Yes. For the cigarette butt litter, we were just recently awarded a grant of about $5,000 to use towards campaign costs, and there I don't have the rough number, but I want to say about 100 units of cigarette butt containers to install throughout the city. So those would be maybe installed at our bus stop. They could be given to our private businesses that we've noted have cigarette butt litter issues, and we would create a new campaign to get folks to reduce their cigarette litter.
So wouldn't the city be putting those up in the purple areas, right where we're seeing the trash?
Yes. So we, yes. There are, this area is with the post office, and we saw dumping of containers, a lot of trash from the folks' lunches as they're taking them in the car. But yes, there are some areas where businesses would benefit greatly. Some of these orange areas would probably turn yellow, or from yellow to green, if they were given if they reduced their cigarette butt litter.
Mm-hmm. And has there been any contact with the post office or the businesses in the purple areas to see how interested and amenable they are to actively partnering to deal with this issue? Or is that in the future?
That would be discussed in the future. Yes, would be one of our education and outreach points would be to communicate with the post office directly and with the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, and then just another comment for this section, then we can move on. Is there any consideration for the downtown street team to assist with installing the cigarette butt capture? That's just a thought that maybe that's something that they could be utilized for.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We are planning on reaching out to our public works division, see if they can help at installing these bins. But if not, I hadn't considered reaching out to downtown streets. So it's a very good idea. Any other questions?
Did you have any more to your presentation, or are we in the discussion period?
A few more slides. There's just
okay.
Okay. Actually, yeah, last slide. So moving forward, if we do choose to go through a track 2 compliance method, an implementation plan will need to be submitted to the State Water Board by the end of this fiscal year. We've already have one developed, and Larry Walker Associates helped us draft that implementation plan. It covers all the current, pretty much all the information that we were given in this presentation, and that will be relayed back to the State Water Board. And it also it states out how we're going to annually inspect our streets, and it'll help map out our progression to become full trash capture equivalency. The city does have until December 1st, 2030. That may seem like many years down the road, but I feel like this date will approach fairly quickly, and I think it'll take coordination from several departments and divisions in the city, but I think it's worthwhile. And last, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Great, thank you. All right, yeah, commissioners, if you have any additional questions, raise your hand in Zoom and I will go in order. Commissioner Criswell.
Just to clarify a little bit more on the cost differentials. So is it fair to say that the only difference between the cost is with track 2, ongoing costs, because you talked about capital costs early on to install new stuff. But for track 2, where we keep doing what we're doing, we have additional monitoring and reporting obligation. Is there any other major factors in terms of the difference in the ongoing cost?
I think so. We are expected to get a new stormwater permit from the State Water Board. Our permit actually was set to expire in 2015, where there's been some delay. Of course, COVID played a part in that, and there are rumors that the new permit will have new inspection requirements for our public works department and new maintenance requirements, also tracking and logging, so in more detail than what it is now. We will probably see a draft of that permit early next year, so I don't have the details yet, and it'll go to public comment. But it is a little hard to say how far it will range. We already know that this is our base. If we choose to hire more staff in our public works department, I understand we need more folks to help with illegal dumping. Those pick up. And I think I've read in our council newsletters, we've actually hired 2 from the downtown streets team that have made it up and gotten positions with our public works division. So as it continues to build and expand, I believe that this figure will go up. It's inevitable, and however, I still believe that it'll be far more cost effective than installing devices everywhere, because it would require far more staff to maintain and all these additional devices, and we'd also have to train them, get them up to speed, and yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it sounds like, yeah, I mean, we have to do ongoing reporting and monitoring, which adds an additional cost, or, at minimum an opportunity cost. But if you were to make the capital investment, you wouldn't get paid back the money and saving money ongoing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah, we would. It would be a huge loss of money for the city, and unless there is a utility fee for storm drains, it's very hard to secure funding.
Great,
Are there,
go ahead.
are there any grants available, federal grants or any types of grants for this capital investment that we know of?
The the most recent grant came through Caltrans. I don't remember the name, I apologize. But they did a huge round of funding. It was a bit of a short notice, but I think our Parks Division was interested. It's just any type of beautification project. You could use the funds for litter pickup. You could install art murals with a combination of installing trash cans in certain areas. So there are grants available, and I understand. It seems like the trend is as the state continues to implement these trash requirements, it really is going to draw a lot of attention. And I think there will be a request from local cities and local government for more grant opportunities. And again, the most recent one and one of the smaller ones were from Keep America Beautiful, and we were able to secure that pretty easily. So I'm looking forward to implementing that.
And has there been any discussions? I know this is probably like, oh, we don't want to talk about it until it's a last resort or so, but regarding fees, if you've inventoried the trash to a certain degree and you're finding that the bulk of it is the cigarette butt, is there any possibility that there would be a conversation on a cigarette trash fee, so to speak, tax or fee on these cigarettes?
Or what about like punitive that some people that are littering and stuff? Is that an option? Just to piggyback onto that.
Because they're real costs to the city, clearly.
Right. I understand there is some California legislation in place. There is a lot of focus around cigarette butt litter, but also the single-use vape cartridges. And there's some attention to either ban the single-use cigarette butt, and there is the city can always try to pass different municipal codes to reduce the litter.
I'd like to just kind of jump in really quick for Faison. So I think that your point about grants in general is well taken. I know that in many of the areas within our division for environmental services, with trash, power recycle, water conservation, and stormwater, there are a number of different grant opportunities that we are not only presented with to decide whether or not it was the right fit for our city, but just seeking out additional funding as part of our job to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible for our residents in general. I do know that to your point, Commissioner Solarino, that we have not proposed an additional tax or Commissioner Criswell as far as maybe even just I see what you've done and I'm going to charge you a fine because I've seen that you littered in our streets in terms of a cigarette butt. Those options have not been presented to leadership or to city council. And as far as I know, I'm not sure that that's something that they would be willing to discuss, but it is something that we could certainly bring back as an option to our city leadership to say, hey, they had this idea. This is, it could be a great idea. Should we investigate how this might work for our city? I do know that how would we mitigate that? How would we implement a program where do we have staff out on the streets watching people dispose of their cigarette butts, or do we have a hotline for folks to call in and say, hey, you know, I saw this person, but we didn't see it ourselves. So I know that there's some legalities beyond just implementing a program like that that would come into play. So all really great ideas, and we're willing to investigate those as they're presented. But I can assure you that any grant that might be available are either presented to us or we're seeking those out actively as a group, not just for stormwater, but for trash and recycling, organic, water conservation, you name it, we're seeking those out to be the best financial stewards.
That's great. That's great. And after kind of hearing, reflecting on actually what I said, I'm thinking, yeah, the city of West Sacramento up against the cigarette lobby, that's not ever going to probably happen. But so what I would say is that we now, staff does have great information to be able to perhaps give some traction to some ledge analysis or something that might come their way and feed it up the chain, you know, for further action there. So.
Absolutely. The data is powerful. And I think
Right.
that going forward, being able to collect, sort through, and present that data to say, hey, even if we don't have a solution offhand, but to say, hey, this is the data we're seeing, this is the issue that's at hand, and we really want to come up with a solution long term, not just a short term fix, but a long term solution. Where do we get the funds to fix this? We don't want to increase any kind of rates for our residents. We don't want, you know, people are struggling these days in terms of you know, cost of living and so forth, but we just want to do the right thing. And so yeah. I think just being the communicator and those that say, hey, this is what's happening, this is what's going on, and we want to fix this. How do we move forward with fixing this and making this data look a whole lot better than it does right now?
Yeah, I think joining with other municipalities and, you know, League of Cities, kind of banding together, getting aggregating that data and the cost to the cities and putting that forward, you know, in a collective basic request or urging the legislature to take action when you have the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. There's certainly an opportunity, I think, to work at a regional level. Those of us in environmental services are fairly used to knowing that, well, anybody really in a jurisdiction, a municipality, a local jurisdiction, we thrive when we can kind of combine forces and work together as a region. And I think that when we can come up with a large group of us that say, hey, this is a problem in our city and we want to fix it, and it's your problem too and your problem too, we are a collection of jurisdictions that can come together and say, help, okay. The state of California, do you have something that can help this large jurisdiction, this large region who wants to partner together and come up with a solution? Is there something you guys can do to help assist us with that now and in the future? I think that your point about, you know, League of Cities and you know, just partnering with our regional partners as well is probably a really great thing to do as well. So.
Great, thank you. I have a few questions. I guess the first thing I'll say, another grant program to look at is the NOAA Marine Debris Program, the federal agency grant program. They have a outreach and education grant that centers around trying to create behavior change that reduces the amount of trash that eventually makes its way out to the ocean. I previously worked for them on the East Coast, so it's a great program to take a look at. I guess taking a step back, could you explain what compliance looks like? In reading through the report, it wasn't clear to me if compliance means that the city is capturing the baseline amount of trash that was observed in your surveys, or if it's 100% of the city meeting that green A level for trash on the street. So what will compliance in 2030 look like?
Great question. I think in our implementation plan, LWA assisted us in, let me find that page for you, kind of what it means to be full capture equivalent. We found that through our PLU acreage, it wouldn't be throughout all cities, throughout all the residential areas. It'd be only in those select PLUs. And let me find this. And we found that we're actually pretty close with just the programs we're currently implementing. We're actually pretty close to, if not over, capturing the minimum amount of trash that's required. So I'll point to this page here of the implementation plan. Let me zoom in a bit. So you'll notice we're still, this table says is just a summary of how many gallons of trash we're collecting. And we have, we're still trying to determine how much we can with our full trash capture systems, our pump stations. But down here, we know from data that was reported by our Public Works Department, 372,000 gallons of trash is collected annually. Storm drain cleaning, we don't have that data yet. Cleanup programs, downtown streets is a major contributor, so they provided some of their data. We found that with just their partnership alone, we're closer to 88,000 gallons. LWA did a great calculation for us, and they found that the total gallons to be captured is 60,000, and we're currently mitigating 459,000. So we're well above, and we're kind of already at equivalency, but the official deadline is in 2030. So we would just report our progress each year, and the hope is that we're collecting even more. And it is hard to say because I wish I had the more details on how the 60,000 figure was calculated. But you know, it's hard to say that, hey, we're already at full capture, but why is it that I walk down the street and I still see a bunch of litter, and I still see, I think it is a hard figure to measure, and we follow the definitions that the State Water Board gives us in how to calculate this equivalency. So that's why one of the reasons we thought track one was a bit extreme, because we have so much. When we look at the total acreage of our PLUs, the percentage of our acreage is fairly small, which is why we only have to mitigate about 60,000 gallons of trash, because we've got a lot of green, just a few hot spots that are pretty bad and need specific attention.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your answer there. I mean, that's helpful because I think in looking at the numbers in the table that we're looking at here, it makes it seem like there's no progress to be made over the next 8 years. But I think we all know that that's not true, right? The hope would be that you would be, behavior would be changing, and the different non-structural attempts would be made in order to hopefully reduce the amount of trash that street sweeping is picking up, and reduce the amount of trash that the downtown street partnership is picking up, so that there isn't, you know, for all that trash that's out there, some of it gets through, right, and ends up in waterways, which is why, you know, this is a really important thing for the city to be pursuing. And I think those non-structural controls are really important too, and they don't really get captured by track one. And so, there's going to be, as was discussed already, there may be some full capture systems that still need to get implemented, and there'll be the capital cost of that, and then the annual maintenance costs of that. And those can still happen under track two. So it's not sort of the all or nothing method that track one presents. So I think that's important. And I think there will be places, like you already said, in the city that need a full capture system because education might not work, and some street sweeping might not be able to get to the curb. So there may be places where we selectively do that. And I do like the interim milestones presented in table 9 that is trying to see progress over time of getting a better grade in different areas of the city or over a larger percentage of the city. So this is kind of back to my question, like, do we get to 100%? Everything's green, that A level, that would be great. I think over time, as the city implements things, hopefully we'll see progress both in the surveys that result in this data here, as well as hopefully the amount of trash being collected dropping because of the behavior change that's happening. And I think the hard thing about track 2 is the uncertainty of the cost. And I think the other commissioners have asked some questions about that already. But it's unknown really at this point in time how much the city's going to need to put towards some of the actions it's going to take in addition to what it's already doing in terms of what we've seen, street sweeping, the downtown streets team, some of the other things that the city does. So that's where I have some hesitation, just because there's a bit more certainty with the track 1 option. It doesn't mean you're not doing the track 2 things as well, but it just doesn't count towards this particular regulatory regime. But you at least know, okay, it's going to cost this much to install, this much to maintain, whereas track 2 has a lot more uncertainty in terms of the total cost. So those are my thoughts. The last thing I will add, in figure 1 in the implementation report priority land use map, the port is labeled as a high density residential area. So I don't think that's correct. And so I would just have your consultant maybe take a look at that.
Okay, noted. Okay, yeah, we will look at that. We'll have to check in with our GIS person as well, because this was shared data from Ontario staff.
Yeah, I don't think it probably makes a big difference as long as your percentages of land use are correct in the implementation report, but it stands out because it's such a big swath there in that sort of orangey shade, and I was like, what development is that?
Can you hover over that specific for us? Is it
It's right in the center.
in the center, the kind of longer?
Yeah,
piece?
right on the port on the
Okay,
water
I
there.
see. Yeah.
That's like that's the industrial
That's
port
interesting.
area. Yeah.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thanks. Those are all my questions and comments. Commissioner Criswell.
Yeah, I guess I'll share my final thoughts is that I think ultimately the track 2 is the way to go. Come around to being more confident about that. The main reason for me is just because it's a good thing for us to pick up our trash off the streets, because it's almost as if track 1 was designed with a mindset that, hey, you're going to get litter no matter what. Never going to be able to pick it all up. We're just going to assume it's there and put filters at the end. And that's true. But at the same time, back to my point of we need to take pride in our city and do the outreach, do the, ticket, give somebody a ticket if possible, and what that kind of stuff. But more value will come out of the reinforcing positive behaviors and getting in the public mindset. Hey, don't litter. Take care of our city.
I'll definitely echo that. that's one of my comments is that track two, the benefit of track two offers the beauty and the pride and the day-to-day cleanliness where track one does not so much. And as far as rewarding positive behavior, I definitely support that and would recommend putting energies into that in the areas that the outreach is going to, touch on community members and interact and intersect with community members and how we can engage them and inspire them and reward them for participating. Another idea that always comes to mind for me with volunteering and positive civic activities or humanitarian whatnot is partnering with the high schools and offer, with the counselors there's oftentimes community service that the high schoolers are, seeking for their like national scholarship award, their various reasons why they're trying to rack up some community service hours and just seek opportunities there, teach them young, get them engaged and reward them for it, get them those credits, so find ways to do that. And then is there a slide here that you can point me to that really is the summary of the recommended actions? I know there was a slide we were just looking at where it had proposed, maybe the track one and track two. It was proposed. I had a comment on that one too. Is it just me or does B seem dirtier than C? Because I was wondering.
I thought that too, Tiffany.
Yeah, I was like, there's more oil on the street. Is that what we're counting, or
maybe more cigarette butts or something?
I may have gotten my picture switched.
Little switched up. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was like, I'll let it go. But since you brought it up, but yeah, there is another slide where it says proposed on the top half. I'll know it when I see it. Must have been back. I'm just not sure, what this means. Must be back.
Maybe it was one of the tables that
yes,
showed from
maybe
the
it was
implementation plan.
Maybe it was because it was proposed, and I'm wondering, well, if that's our way to compliance, then we're just potential right there, structural control. So this is for track two, but these are all potential. Do we mean recommended, or we just don't know if those are ever going to come? What's it dependent on?
Sorry, I'm still trying to find the section.
You have it. It's this table. In each of the rows in the first section under structural, yes. It says potential for each one.
Gotcha. This would be because it hasn't been implemented yet. So
this is our recommendation, your recommendation?
Right. So with track two, we still need to install some full capture devices, just not as many. So then once we do, once we maybe install one at a pump station, or if we install some at our DIs, then we'll be able to record how much trash is being abated. Also with the new trash permit, if they do require better monitoring, better reporting, our public works department will, I understand they've already incorporated a new reporting software and monitoring software, but it requires that for the data to be more accurate and be more specific. So any data that we're not capturing right now will need to be captured through the new stormwater permit. And once we install these devices, hopefully we'll have better figures of how much trash is being abated.
Does the city have budgeted funds for the installation of these that are identified in this section, or is that future budgets?
That would be future. It would have to be a collaboration with CIP. And I know we've had some discussions in the past, and the number one issue that they've come to us with is, well, where do we find funding?
Right,
And,
right.
It is so much easier to find grants for different programs for Track 2 compliance, and the cost can just vary so much with installing different devices throughout the city that our capital improvement department have always reiterated that cost is the number one issue.
For sure. They can't, do it all. So these are really to be determined if they're going to ever be installed. So if the city moves forward with Track 2 and any of these rows cannot be purchased and funded, then what? Are we still on Track 2? Do we go ahead with partial Track 2, or what do we do then?
Yeah, we would still be with Track 2 and continue to explore different funding opportunities and different methods of installing these devices. So the work wouldn't stop once we switch to Track 2. We would still be required to secure funding for these full capture systems.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, commissioners. I think that was a good discussion. I guess the staff recommendation was that the commission provide support of the staff's recommendation to City Council for the city to switch from the Track 1 compliance method, which the city is currently on, full capture systems, to the Track 2 compliance method, which could include full capture systems, but would also be, as we've discussed, implementing and enhancing various municipal programs. Would it be helpful if that support was provided by a vote of the commission? Is that something that, are we making a recommendation up to the City Council to support this change?
That's correct. I'm not sure how the voting procedures work, but I think a vote would be, in my opinion, a great way to solidify the decision.
Okay, thank you. Would any of the commissioners, do you have any thoughts on that, questions, comments, or would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion that this commission recommend or support the city switching from Track 1 compliance method to the Track 2 compliance method.
Thank you, Commissioner Solorio.
I would second that motion, assuming it includes voting.
Thank you. I think because we now have a motion and a second, we should take a vote. And so I would ask the commission clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Crispa,
Aye.
Commissioner Solorio,
Aye.
Commissioner Choi,
Yes.
Commissioner Cholino.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Faizan. Appreciate your presentation and answering our questions.
Appreciate you all. Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. I will now move us to General Administration Function Part 2 of the agenda. The first item is our meeting calendar. The next regular meeting of the Environment and Utilities Commission is scheduled for June 13th, 2022. And then the next item, are there any reports from city staff? I believe that would be you, Tracy, if you have anything.
Okay. I guess I probably should have been a little more prepared for that part. I don't particularly have anything to report. Actually, one thing, we are hosting Earth Day, an Earth Day event along with our parks department. Woo, of course. That's going to be on Saturday. Based on time again, 10 to 1, is it?
10 to 1, yes.
And the park name?
Bright Park.
Bright Park. So if you guys want to bring your families out or just even want to attend as part of our commission, we welcome you and hope you have a good time.
Which day is that?
It's Saturday.
This
6th.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Time
So-
again? Sorry.
Sure. 10 to 1 at
Thank
Bright
you.
Park.
There will also be a raffle. So if you visit the different vendor tables, fill out a card, submit it for a raffle. And I remember a couple years ago there were some good prizes, so it's worth doing the raffle. And there's some we've got a food truck, some hand painting, no face painting, but hand painting
Mhm.
for the kids.
There's going to be an egg hunt partnering with Parks and Rec for the littles. So there's going to be a lot of activity going on over there. So we welcome you to join us or just even come out and take a peek to see what we're doing to celebrate Earth Day. And I think that's all I have.
Okay. I was wondering, does this commission think that we might want a special commission meeting perhaps in May to establish the new chair and VP, or something that should just, oh, we already did establish it would wait now. Okay. That's right. Okay. No rush.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we would need to do a special meeting just for that, but of course, if if there was anything that the city needed us to weigh in on with a special meeting, we could always have that be a part of the agenda as well.
Right. Yeah, there's that. Yeah. If it comes up, we should probably deal with it sooner than later. Currently, we technically don't have one. Is that?
I assume that we would just stay in our current roles. So Dana, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting her last name.
Cordano?
Commissioner Cordano is the chair, and I am the vice chair, which this was fun. I got to serve as chair today.
Oh,
so.
okay. Okay, I got it. Well, it maintains until new ones are set. Got
I think that's
You did a great
typically-
job.
it.
Yeah,
Yes, you
thanks,
did.
Thanks for your indulgence. I appreciate
Yes.
it. The next thing on the agenda is any future agenda item requests by the commissioners. Is there anything that you'd like to see on future agendas? Commissioner Criswell.
I'm sorry. I at that exact moment I accidentally pressed the raise hand button.
No worries. I guess. Oh, go ahead,
have
Commissioner
one.
Choi.
Well, one of my jobs is to work with electric school buses. And so I was just wondering, I have seen a few from the Washington Unified School District in West Sacramento. And I know also that it is a utility partnership, and there's, some city involvement on planning and designing. So is there somebody who works for the city that can maybe put together a presentation just about where the city's at with electric school bus deployments and helping the school district procure more?
Yeah, I think Jason McCoy, he's our transportation planner. I think he would probably be the right person to tap for that kind of presentation. Katie, is that, am I guessing correctly with my being new?
Yeah, I think that sounds right. That's definitely something we can talk to Jason about.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Great. And then, I don't know if this is something that we need to put on an agenda, but, I think there's a desire at the state level, at least, to have folks electrify their homes. So moving off of natural gas, if possible. And I was just made aware of a new incentive program And I guess the state of California is funding, or maybe ratepayers are funding, when you pay your electricity bill, to switch from gas appliances to electric appliances. And so I don't know if that's something that the city could brief us on, like kind of incentives for homeowners
Decommissioning, yeah.
yeah, and if there's opportunities as well for renters, those might be less large improvements, but smaller things that renters can do, since we are the Environment and Utilities Commission.
Yes. Short answer would be yes. We could certainly look into it for you. I think that might be outside of our scope, just in ESSD for the city. I know that we don't work specifically with SMUD or PG&E or any of the power companies. But that's not to say that we're not willing to do some research and footwork to try to bring some light to maybe something that might be more confusing for our residents. So we could certainly look into that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. I mean, even more broadly than just us, as much as we would love that information, but man, how confused and kind of lost are probably the average, citizen on these things. This would be a great booth to have the Earth Day celebration maybe next year.
We noted that's a great idea.
Yeah, and also, I mean, sometimes the messaging gets off track a little bit in terms of when we talk about moving over infrastructure from gas to electric. Sometimes people just think, oh, they're gonna take away my barbecue grill. It's really doesn't have to be that way. And kind of like focus on some more of the positive sides that electrification, all the things that it can do. I think people can still have a barbecue grill and stuff like that, but so anyway, I think we can avoid some pitfalls too that goes along with the confusion that was mentioned.
Yeah, and I think it does fit into some of the city's like climate action plan, and that is a presentation that we've received at the commission. So yeah, just any information we can help to disseminate through our meetings and then in our roles as commissioners, that would be great.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, I'm quite the proponent of electric vehicles. I just recently purchased an all electric vehicle just before the whole gas issue hit us pretty hard out here. So I'm thankful, especially with my commute to West Sacramento every day, and it's really been a blessing. So I'm a huge proponent. And I tell you, some of the red tape trying to get through and understand and just, make sure you're doing the right thing. It can be difficult. It can be very difficult. Even buying a new house and trying to put solar.
Exactly.
There's brand new rules you didn't even know about, and it can get really super frustrating. And so, yeah, I hear you, and we could definitely look into something to share.
Nice.
Great. Anything else, commissioners? All right. Hearing nothing, we can adjourn our meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night, all.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.